Chuck, let me ask you this. Why
Yeah.
do you point to the fact that the cities that were built before World War II, in other words, pre-1940, that they are what we should be using as our models? Why on earth would we go back in time 70 years to model our current cities on? Times have changed.
Times have definitely changed. And when I went to Huntington, West Virginia, it was obvious right when I got there that the changing times had not been good to this city. This is a city full of just fantastic old buildings, just fantastic neighborhoods that were all built pre-World War II in a different age and a different time, when we built places incrementally around people who walked, around local businesses, around local enterprise. Things have changed. I don't think they've changed for the better.
Why on earth would we go back in time 70 years to model our current cities on?
Before the automobile era, our cities grew in three different ways. They would grow out incrementally, they would grow up incrementally, and they would grow in intensity incrementally all over time. When we enter the automobile age, the up and the intense were completely wiped out and replaced with a development pattern that was just hyper horizontal, all out. And for places like Huntington, what has happened is that the vital center has been lost. And economically, there's been a stagnation of property values, which has not been offset by the very high cost, low return investment that the city has seen on the periphery.
I have a little bit of difficulty understanding where you're coming from. You talk about a kind of a Ponzi scheme growth. You talk about post-development from World War II, which was 60-some years ago. What about the modern day where there is public-private partnerships, where bonds are issued, where infrastructure needs are met?
Since World War II, growth at the local level has been a transactional undertaking. A local government will go out and look for a grant, a low-interest loan, some type of private sector partner to help them build key infrastructure systems that will support new growth. Since the bulk of the costs for that transaction are not borne by the local government, from a short-term perspective, it's a net cash flow positive. What the local government takes on in the long term, however, are these enormous liabilities to service and maintain this vastly spread out horizontal city. And that's what you're seeing in Huntington. You're seeing two generations of horizontal growth replacing the solid, traditional, neighborhood-oriented pattern of growth and development that made Huntington a spectacular city.
Well, now you mentioned horizontal growth. Well, the alternative to horizontal is presumably vertical, and that simply isn't possible in most municipalities, or at least small municipalities.
Work by Joe Minicozy and others has shown that as soon as you start building more than one story, as soon as you add even a second story, you're just starting to build wealth. Because we lay pipe by the foot, we build streets by the foot, but as soon as you can start making buildings more than just a per foot basis, as soon as you can start adding a vertical element, you're just growing wealth in a community. And that's what traditional development patterns inherently understood and inherently captured.
But vertical growth is not always possible in a lot of areas. I mean, not physically possible. The tallest building in this city, for example, is only 15 stories high. And actually, that was one that was built many, many years ago. It's not a new building.
And there's a point precisely. The traditional development pattern did 70 plus years ago used to build great vertical buildings. It used to make enormous investments in our traditional neighborhoods. And it did that not because the people were fools, but because the property was really, really valuable. We've wiped out that value with the horizontal development pattern. We've wiped out that value by subsidizing and promoting growth on the periphery of the community, growth that was quick and easy, but that is having enormous long-term financial consequences for the city. Huntington has fantastic neighborhoods, has fantastic downtown core. All the ingredients are there for a renaissance. Huntington just needs to look at itself a little bit differently than it is today.
Why on earth would we go back in time 70 years to model our current cities on?
Because it worked. We've solved the problems of the traditional city. There's no longer sewage in the streets. There's no longer problems with garbage. We don't have coal-burning furnaces putting ashes and soot all over the place. Our manufacturing today is not a bunch of smokestacks and smelting plants. We've solved the problems of the traditional city. We shouldn't have thrown the baby out with the bathwater, because the strength of a place like Huntington is in its core, in its bones, in its traditional neighborhoods. If Huntington can focus on those again, it can be building from its strengths to a really prosperous and strong future.
A lot of cities where the people are elected screw the city, but it isn't the government.
Huntington, I'm glad I got an invitation to come and see your great city. I'm very inspired by you and optimistic about your future. Embrace that incremental growth pattern within your core neighborhoods and downtown. It's a low-risk, high-return approach that will help you prosper mightily in the coming years. Take care and keep doing what you can to make Huntington a strong town.